Okay. Compliance with the Open Public Meetings Law. I wish to state that on December the 6th, 2013, the notice of this meeting of the Upper Township Committee was posted on the official Township Bulletin Board, mailed to the Cape May County Gazette, Atlantic City Press, the Ocean City Sentinel-Ledger, the Herald Times, and filed with the Township Clerk. Tonight's meeting is being video recorded and will be available on UTTV Channel 2 and on the Upper Township website. You hereby direct that this announcement be made a part of the minutes of this meeting. Let us all rise for the salute to the flag. Before we do the salute to the flag, I want to ask everyone to remain standing after the salute to the flag so that we can have a moment of silence for Barbara Camp. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if we could have a moment of silence and remain standing. Barbara Camp was a long-time clerk in the township and also committee person. She served on this township committee for 6 years. She passed away over the weekend, so obviously our prayers and thoughts go out to her family, and I would ask all to keep her in your prayers as well. Okay, thank you. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mr. Corson?
Present.
Mr. Insera?
Here.
Mr. Newman?
Here.
Mayor Palumbo?
Here.
All members are present.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes of the November 26th regular meeting in closed session. As submitted. Second.
Any omissions or corrections or anything anybody's aware of? Okay, hearing none. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Will abstain, I was not present.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried with 4 in favor.
Okay. Barbara, do you have anything for us this evening?
I have nothing to report this evening, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Daniel?
Nothing at this time. We do have a handful of closed session items, contract negotiations, safety and security issues, and a personnel.
Okay. Paul?
Thank you. I have a couple items. First, I want to let committee know that almost all the letters to residents regarding the trash carts have gone out to residents. We've been receiving numerous calls and response forms back, and almost everybody's been very positive about the program, so that's moving along very well at this point in time.
Any requests for additional cats?
Yes, a few. And we're sending them down to the Beacon Animal Rescue for that also. Next, the NJDEP reached out to me on Friday regarding a grant that they had or getting potentially through the Department of Interior for New Jersey 2013 Hurricane Sandy Coastal Resiliency Competitive Grant Program. And it's a program where they're funneling the funds through the DEP, and then they're going to partner with different towns on different projects for planning and different projects, and a lot of it is for green infrastructure, especially along the back bays and wetlands and waterways. And I think that we could have some opportunities to work over in Strathmere, especially along when we go to enhance or rebuild the boat ramp on like the easterly side of Bayview there, where it backs up to the marsh, to help fortify that area on the tip. That could be a spot where we could work with them, as well as some other bulkhead locations along the Strathmere Bay that we maybe could take advantage and use their assistance. So the deadline is next week to apply for the grant, and I'd like to request authorization to go ahead and submit the documentation up to the DEP as required by the grant program and the DEP.
Pretty much no way if we're going to pass this.
Yes.
Approve what we're trying to.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
I don't believe there'll be anyone that will be against it, so please call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
The last thing I wanted to bring up was just to give the committee an update on the the affordable housing rehab project that we've been doing. If you remember, the program was to approve 14 low and moderate income homes in the township for rehab. The last home was just put under contract with the contractor to start the work, and there's one home that's being worked on. They've had a lot of difficulties with it because it's a historical home, and the budget prices keep coming over the $20,000 allotment that's allowed in accordance with the program. And for that one, the administrator for Triad Association is asking if the committee would authorize an additional $2,235 to bring it to a total of $22,235 so that he can get just the one basic item on their list, which is repairing some of the siding on the home that has holes right through the building to secure that. But because of the historic nature, the costs are up there.
Who put it on a historic place?
I'm not, I think just by the pure nature and because it's in the Tuckahoe area, that it's just designation of being in the, Tuckahoe. Most of the Tuckahoe is in the National Historic District, and so the home just being there, and anytime there's public funds used on that type of home, it's kind of
Well, that would make it eligible for other grant money versus COLA housing grant.
potentially. But there again, that's up for the homeowner to try to secure.
Either way, does it have, the funds are there, right?
We do have the funds. When you look at the 14 properties, if we, the project was allowing for $20,000 per unit, we've averaged about $14,465 per unit. So, in what we thought we were going to be spending on the program, there is allotment in a total. However, there's been some less, but this would still.
The homeowner's still responsible for paying it back.
Yes.
So when he's stolen the property, we pay
Yes.
it back. All it is adding, adding value, number one, and number two is it doesn't put the township in any greater risk than it normally would be.
No, it's just exceeding what the program allowed for, and that can only be done by authorization by township
Okay, that
committee.
was my next question. We are allowed to authorize that.
Yes, you set as part of the program the cap that's
But
allowed.
that has already been approved by Community Affairs and COA.
Yes.
Do we need any authorization? Because I haven't reviewed this yet, but that was my question as to whether or not, you may think it's a good idea and you might approve it, but those caps in that program has been approved by the DCA and COA, so I just don't want to run afoul with their approval.
I've talked with the administrator, and they say this is typically, this is, I won't say typically done here, but
Okay.
can be done administratively, authorization from the township committee to exceed.
As long as it
what
doesn't
they've-
jeopardize the program, we could, if you want to do a motion, you can do it subject to confirmation that it doesn't impact the program.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
That's all I had for this evening, thank you.
Okay. Barbara?
I have nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Jay?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, of course. We have, I'd like to have the township honor, with a resolution and presentation, hopefully we can do it next week, to Marissa Sampson. Marissa Sampson was awarded by the New Jersey Office of Emergency Services on November 15th. She was awarded the, let me see, Outstanding EMS Action by Youth. She's obviously the daughter of our, one of our full-time EMS employees, and I'll read a little note here. Marissa Sampson, age 9, has been assisting volunteer members with other township rescue squads since she was an infant. Marissa has volunteered to be a patient so the members can train on specialized equipment. This including training on how to secure a child into a car seat and security seat to the stretcher. She has helped by applying backwards to pediatric patients and removing patients from the school bus. Marissa is now assisting to teach children on what to know when you need to call 911. Marissa has been a great asset in our continuing training and has been an excellent patient. She has also assisted in fundraising events while being an excellent student in sports. So she was outstanding EMS action by youth, honored the award from the New Jersey Office of Emergency Services on November 15th. And I'd like to make that in form of
Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Just one other item we'll be discussing in closed session concerning safety and security issues. And that's all I have.
Okay. Curtis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our temporary budget is going to start being put together for January 1. We need a temporary budget to operate. Typically, that's 25% of last year's budget. So I've authorized Barbara Spiegel to start putting that together so it can be voted on at the reorganization meeting. If anybody has any significant changes, obviously contact me or contact Barbara. It can be added, removed, deleted, whatever.
We should have that information next week or two.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Tony?
I have nothing this night.
Okay. Ed?
We have a young man. His name is Chris Chadwick. He, at the present time, he informally runs a program down at the Caldwell Park to play basketball. So he wrote us a letter asking if, by all means, if he could use the rec hall community center to play. The only difference is that, you know, it's pretty right now is that they're organized down there, running their program on the outside. All they're asking for is a facility to use during inclement weather. So my suggestion would be is get in touch with the young man, have him fill out a use of facilities form.
Well, he would have to pay potentially to use the facility. However, if the township wanted to sponsor it, my understanding in the past, it was sponsored by the Basketball Association, which is one of our ongoing sports programs. And I gather he doesn't have a program sponsoring him, he just wants to do it himself.
This is all within a group of adults that play basketball
All right.
now. They're not competing
So
against any outside team.
what I would suggest is that if the township wants to designate him as a volunteer to do that, you can do that. But if he goes through the ordinance and use of facilities, there's going to be a fee involved with using the community center. And obviously you have scheduling issues as well.
We've talked about, at one time or another, having it open for like pickup games at night.
That's basically what it is.
I think that's what he wants to do.
Basically, if this man can be a volunteer and be responsible for it that night and have a pickup game, that's what the community center is there for.
Yes, and my point is it should be something that the township approves as one of their programs, not as just an outside use of facilities. So if that's what you want to do, if you want to waive the fees.
Obviously, if it's going to be a pickup game, though, I believe it's open to all races, sexes, and everything else.
Yes, but age, I believe he wanted to limit it to only adults, so he wouldn't have to worry about getting people certified, criminal background checks and things of that nature.
That would be, but obviously females and.
It's adults.
Okay.
He
I just-
addressed that.
And I think it's important to understand that, you know, part of the reason why we have some of these facilities is to allow children of all ages, as it were, to participate in sports. You know, we have the path at Manisfield that we hope people take that for passive recreation, and certainly I'd like to see people take advantage of, you know, exercise and having the ability to do that. So, do we need to make a formal motion?
I would want a motion of the committee that it be a township program, that they will not have to pay for use of facilities. However, we would have to confirm that the insurance is in place, appropriate waivers are signed, and the young gentleman takes on the responsibility of the facility for the township.
Is that a motion? Is there a second? Okay, first and a second. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Anything else? Okay. I attempted to, well, I actually did attend the meeting tonight up in Galloway Township for the New Jersey Pinelands Commission. It was an incredibly packed house. I had gotten there about 20 of 5. The meeting was supposed to start at 5, and I was already 4 pages into those that were willing to speak publicly. I will say that I was able to give them a statement written that I was going to read, and they said that it will be accepted as part of the public comment. I'd like to read this just so we have it on record here at the township. So basically, it says municipalities have a responsibility to take a balanced approach to economic development, job creation, and environmental protection for their communities. Few projects ever accomplish all these priorities, but Upper Township is fortunate to be presented with that opportunity. The BL England Electric Generation Facility in Beasley's Point was ordered by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection to either install cost-prohibitive controls to significantly reduce emissions from the coal and oil the plant currently burns, repower the plant with much cleaner natural gas, or shut down entirely. The owners of the plant decided to convert to cleaner natural gas, which is in line with New Jersey's plan to reduce our reliance on coal. By converting the plant to natural gas, they are able to save the jobs of our neighbors at the plant, provide a local reliability energy source, and ensure the plant continues to contribute to our local economy. In order for the plant to operate, South Jersey Gas must build a pipeline to the plant. South Jersey Gas has already received all necessary approvals after in-depth reviews from the Army Corps of Engineers, the Department of Environmental Protection, and the Board of Public Utilities. Now awaits final approval from the Pinelands Commission. The pipeline would be built parallel to Route 49 and Tuckahoe Road. The pipeline will run under and adjacent to already paved roadways and will therefore not cut into this treasured and pristine area of our state. An independent third-party consulting firm has spent over a year performing studies in this area to ensure there are no impacts to nearby threatened and endangered species or to adjacent wetlands along the route. In addition to being a cleaner energy source, this pipeline would bolster the reliability of gas supply system in Cape May County and create 75 full-time jobs for approximately 9 months. The existing system only has one feed into the county. Disruptions such as one seen in other areas of the state from Superstorm Sandy could severely interrupt service to thousands of our neighbors and residents, possibly for multiple months at a time. Therefore, it is critically important to our residents to have this project approved. Upper Township respectfully requests the Pinelands Commission act favorably on the proposal of South Jersey Gas. So that will be put in the public record this evening. There is a meeting on Friday up at the Pinelands Commission, and that's Friday morning at 9:30. At least Paul and I will attend. I'm trying to see if one of our other committee members are available, and we will also make it known that the Township Committee fully supports this project, and in fact, it is dire for reliability. Not only for natural gas as a contingency resource in the event that some damaging storm should come, but also for the reliability of electricity for the area and also the maintenance of jobs. So we will be there on Friday morning, but again, there were a significant amount of people there. In fact, our local news media were there. And I'm curious to see how, some of the comments went. So that's all I have to add to that. So we will move on now to the resolutions.
Item number 1, authorizing an amendment to the shared services agreements with the Upper Township Fire Districts for website services.
I'll move the resolution. Second.
And this is a shared partnership we have with our fire districts to enable putting their districts on the website and also their budgets, correct?
As required, yes.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Nacera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 2, authorizing the execution of a shared services agreement with the City of Ocean City to provide public safety answering and dispatch services and associated computer-aided dispatch support.
I'll move the resolution. Second.
And this is an ongoing agreement, shared services that we've had with Ocean City for a number of years for them to provide the 911 dispatch. It is a significant amount of money in the contract, but I will note that the year of 2014 and 2015 remain flat and that the rate will be the same. There will be some subsequent increases in years the following from 2016 onward, but at this point, the services provided have been ample and they've done a significant job, and we have not had any complaints that I'm aware of from any of the fire districts or the rescue squad, so.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 3, authorizing the Township of Upper to enter into a contract with Better Hearing Incorporated to provide hearing examinations.
With the resolution.
And this is something that we must provide for our employees, and we were able to get a contract and work favorably for the township based on its rate. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 4, authorizing the purchase of a Toro Groundsmaster 5900 from the 2013 capital improvement bond ordinance in the amount of $80,171.53 through the National Intergovernmental Purchasing Alliance Company, National IPA.
Move the resolution. Second.
And this is an item that we discussed at our last meeting. We've had some in-depth discussion about it. Something that Public Works has requested and something we probably need, and it's coming out of our bonded money that we have procured in the past. So would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 5, authorizing the execution of a NJDEP TWA-1 application, statements of consent form regarding 6 East Williams Avenue, Strathmere, for Block 851, Lot 5.
This is what we discussed before.
That's a different
This
one,
is
but
a
it's
new
the
one.
same idea.
Same idea, and I have reviewed it, and the plan does.
They just
meet all our-
require support of the township so that they can move forward with
It-
this.
It's less than support of the township, just confirmation that there is no ordinance that would prohibit their activity.
Okay. Well, if we had one, we wouldn't be supporting it,
Right.
so.
Move the resolution. Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 6, authorizing the award of a contract with True Green Incorporated for recreation field maintenance.
Move the resolution.
Second, just,
Who
what,
wants bid on this, Paul? Bart,
I'm sorry,
who wants bid on this?
who else bid on it? I can tell you, Lawn Doctor had no reply when we asked them, and then Delaware Valley Spraying.
What are we asking them to do?
We're asking for the crabgrass control, weed control, grub treatment for
Why?
the fields.
Why can't we do it ourselves?
Because I believe you need a
We
pesticide.
don't have pesticides.
We need a
We're looking into that,
pesticide.
somebody.
Well, we've looked into it before, we've asked people to go out and
Yes.
so we don't have a, hold on, say that again, what is required of us if we were to do it ourselves?
we need somebody with a pesticide
Pesticide
license.
license.
We have somebody with different classes, they're not available yet. I believe they will start in the spring.
Well, we've asked people to do it before, and we've
Yes.
offered senators to do it, and it's,
But we also, you gotta look at the cost involved in storing and handling those chemicals that, you know, whether or not the liability and benefits of doing the work,
and the cost of a sprayer, I
and
mean.
the cost of the sprayer and all the equipment.
So the storage and.
How much,
building and all.
well, you don't store it, because you order what you need, you don't store chemicals. It's Seat and turf guys, right up the road, let them store. How much is the contract?
The contract is $17,618. It's for the year. It's for the year.
That's probably not bad, okay.
We have
Well-
somebody that's all different classes, certifications.
Right, so, but if they're starting classes in the spring, obviously, we need to take care of this prior to that happening, because
Right.
probably won't have the certification
Actually, I
before they
didn't know
need
we
it.
wouldn't have to bid, I could bid on it, maybe people work for me certified, and just got a sprayer.
Well, maybe in the future now that you may be changing your rank here, so. But for now, you know, and I mean, I don't know the value of this. I mean, it seems like.
Sounds about right.
Okay.
It sounds like it's fair.
Well, the other quote was for $32,000 and change. So,
Almost double what this quote is.
yes.
And they've been doing it for probably the last 3 or 4
So we have
years.
someone willing to do it? Right, okay. All right, so in the interim, while we're waiting for one of our township employees to go through the certification, we have a motion, we have a second for discussion. I mean, is there any other discussion before we ask for a formal vote? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 7, authorizing the mayor and township clerk to sign a contract for an emergency notification system in Upper Township.
What is it?
This is a reverse 911.
Yeah, and this is
Discussed
an
at the last
extension.
meeting, closed
I
session.
mean, they're offering us some added value, but it's the same basic company, right? Same contract?
It's a subsidiary of the prior company. It's essentially the same cost. I believe it's between $2,000 and $3,000 a year. The actual number is, bear with me,
Hold on.
$2842.50.
Right. Okay. It was of great value during an emergency when we had Sandy. We certainly utilized it quite a bit. And, you know, it's certainly something that we could continue to utilize if any storms or anything came forward. So I'd like to make a motion that we continue with this contract.
Second.
Is there any other discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 8, authorizing the disposal of personal property with no market value.
Second. No problem with this, Dan?
No.
Right? Just don't have it?
It's just getting rid of excess file drawers, I believe, file cabinets.
File cabinets.
Okay. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 9, under ordinances, public hearing and final adoption of ordinance number 12, 2013, and ordinance revising job classifications and titles and amending Chapter 5 entitled Personnel of the Code of Upper Township.
Okay, before I open it up, see if there's any public comment, is there any comments from the Township Committee? Okay. At this time, I'll open it up. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address ordinance 1213 on personnel, the code, entitled Personnel of the Code of the Upper Township? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion, we adopt ordinance number 12 of 2013, noting with no public comment. Second.
Okay. And just for the record, I'll close the public portion of the hearing and move for the motion for adoption. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 10, public hearing and final adoption of ordinance number 14, 2013, and ordinance authorizing an emergency appropriation pursuant to NJSA 40A:4-53 for the preparation and execution of a complete program of revaluation of real property for the use of the local assessor.
Okay. Before I open up to the public, is there any comments again from the Township Committee?
Once again, this is emergency authorization because we have been ordered by the county tax assessor to revalue.
Okay.
It's not in our budget.
So at this time, we'll open it up. Would anyone from the public like to address the ordinance that we're about to consider, 14/2013, and it's about the authorization for a revaluation of real property for the use in Upper Township based on a county mandate? Okay. Since I note that there's no public comment, I'll close the public portion and entertain a motion for adoption.
I move that we adopt ordinance number 14 of 2013, noting no public comment. Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes,
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 11, under new business, review of proposals for the RFID reader, mobile computer, and refuse cart asset management system.
motion to approve.
Just review.
I'll second for discussion. I guess my question is, so the cans, they don't, they have, do they, I thought they had
They have RFID, yes. This is to help track the containers, both manage, because we were having, close to 5,400 properties, having 2 or more carts. This system will help manage those carts to know where they are at any time, and it also, allows for readers on the trucks. So during collection, they know, the supervisors know progress of where the trucks are, what's being collected, what wasn't collected, and if they're being collected at the proper address. It'll also have a system where, it has a navigation component to it, so that if we have to have a new driver in a truck that's not used to these new routes that we'll be establishing, that it'll actually give them turn-by-turn navigation to make sure that they drive the route in the most efficient manner.
And actually, one thing it'll do too is it'll stop, if the resident doesn't put their trash out, for example, and they see the trash truck go by, and they want to get their can and put it out all of a sudden, they call the public works yard and say, they drove by my can. Our device will tell us their can is not out there.
Yes,
And it's very efficient, and it stops all that nonsense.
And this, if you remember, this was part of the original truck bids, but we removed it from the truck bids so that we could get a more competitive price and product and evaluate it for the actual needs of the township, as opposed to just taking the lowest price on a specialized product like this. And this pricing is still, puts the total project well under budget of what the estimated project costs were for the containers, the trucks, and this computer system.
And this can also be utilized in the recycling reward program, I believe, too.
Yes, actually, the company that we've selected, that's usually, I'll say 90% of the municipalities in our area that participated in that Recycle Bank program utilize this system.
And what that means is somebody, local businesses want to sponsor something or give a prize or discount for recycling and actually move through our program.
Yes.
Well, I just want to note, this is a significant amount of money to be spending on this year's budget, upcoming year's budget for this project.
Well, this is all part of the capital.
I understand that, but it's still a significant amount of money.
Well, it's here as a discussion item, it's not to be voted on, well. I guess it could be.
Now, there's been a motion and a second to accept the proposal for Cascade. I believe that's what I heard, is that correct, Barbara?
Yes.
So,
We're not put out a bid.
Excuse me?
It was sent out, it's a professional, it's like a professional contract, because it's software and specialized hardware. It doesn't have to be competitively bid, but it was sent out on a competitive proposal basis, and it was scored along a criteria that apparently the Public Works Department reviewed and analyzed, and that's how you came up with the lowest responsible bidder.
Yeah, we advertised.
well, it doesn't really work that way. It's, we're still paying a significant amount. Its overall cost is what we're saving, correct? It says over 5 years.
Correct, yes, the five-year program cost is less expensive. When you look at the initial capital expenditure of the hardware and the reader is a little bit more, but when you look at the annual maintenance.
It's more than a little bit
contract,
more, it's 20-some thousand more, 24,000 more,
But
right?
when you look at the yearly O&E cost, it's $11,000 cheaper. So over a 5-year period, you're saving, more than saving double that increase in capital costs.
No, you're not. I don't see how you say that. The 5-year program, you save 28,000. Right now, the cost between the two bids, one is 67,625 and one is 43,800. So that's 20-some thousand there. It's not like you're getting it all back. It takes you 5 years to get the money back, is what I'm saying.
You'll have it in year 2.
What?
I mean,
No, you're not gonna have it.
I mean, I'm not so
The
sure we
5-year
shouldn't outlay the smaller amount now. And, you know, so, I mean, you know, we'll wind up spending 3,000 more over 5 years, but the reality is the upfront money is significantly cheaper at this point.
and it's also a less of a system.
Well, that wasn't what it says here. I mean, we compared two systems here.
I think when you look at the
I
grading.
mean, I'm willing to go along with the recommendation, but I just think it should be pointed out that, you know, we're really not taking the lowest bid on the initial contract.
It wasn't designed to take lowest bid. It's scored based upon qualifications. If you look at the request for proposals, Paul, if you could explain it, because you prepared those proposals, they had various criteria. Some was cost and others were functionality, correct?
Correct.
And that's how it's scored.
And you
Now-
should have copies of the
We do have that.
criteria. Score sheet. The one system, the one that initially the cost is less of a system. It will not provide as much functionality as the
So-
more expensive one initially.
Okay, so just so I understand this, we put an RFP out, right? And we don't ask for the same thing when we put an RFP out? Like, we don't ask for comparables here? I mean, I don't know how we actually say that we actually put a significant
Because
RFP or bid out.
Because it's a professional service, it's not like you're going out and buying a widget that's gonna do a specific item. You know, they all make a different system, and so that's why you have to evaluate how that each manufacturer makes that system and prepares that system. To give you an example, when I talked about the turn-by-turn navigation and talking about the driver inputs that we can identify if there's a cart not out at a stop, or if there's damage to the cart on the system.
I get all that. I get all that, Paul. I honestly, I'm not trying to be rude. I just want to know why we didn't give criteria and say, this is what we're looking for.
We did.
And but they just bid lower and said, I can't provide this and this is what I'm giving you?
Now, when you look at the grading, the one that's actually cheaper does not provide the full functionality that we had requested. And that's what's reflected in the grading of the score.
Or the other one.
Right, so then we really only had one bid on what we were looking for.
That met all of our criteria that we were looking for, yes. But we had, because of the RFP and how we graded it, you know, we wanted to evaluate all the bidders. And there were 18 other vendors that, you know, received the proposal and reviewed the specs, but decided not to respond to the RFP.
Okay? I'm sorry to monopolize this discussion. Does anybody else have any comments? Would you go ahead.
I'm still having a hard time comprehending this. I mean, there's no standard that we sent out. Is that?
I mean, that's what I'm trying to get at.
By statute, the request for proposal, which is what this is because it's professional service, it's a little different than a bid because you actually state in the proposal that you send out, this is how we're going to rank your proposal when it comes back in. I mean, we do it for banking services. We go out for RFPs for ambulance billing. We go out for RFPs because some of the services that are offered could vary from vendor to vendor.
So in other words, what happened was you sent out what your specs were. 18 different vendors picked up those specs, but these were the only ones that threw their hat in the ring to compete on it.
Correct.
So we're stuck with whoever competed on it, and
Well, you can rebid it. I don't know what his time, you ask for more proposals. There's no deadline unless you have a time frame that you're trying to
If we
reach.
don't award it at this point, the system won't be able to be installed on the vehicles at the start of the program.
Your delay would be the delay of the program.
what are we going to do with the information once we gather it?
It's used as a management tool for the, tracking, like I said, we have over 12,000 carts that we have to keep track of where they are, maintenance records of those carts. We also want to keep track of progress of the vehicles and where those carts are and how they're being collected.
So we're still on track for a March start later?
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's what we're shooting for. And this is your recommendation, Tony. I mean, because two meetings ago, you told me when I suggested we put the other trash truck in the bond ordinance, that you didn't know how we were gonna pick up trash. So we got all that resolved.
No, I think what he said was, he wasn't sure if we needed an additional truck.
Exactly.
Well, I think the exact words were Tony said, I'm not sure how we're gonna pick up trash.
No, I don't recall that,
We need a third truck. That was my exact words.
but this is a different issue, so let's go back to this one.
We're not gonna get off track, though, there's gonna be administrative duties with this program too, right?
Yes.
So it's gonna take somebody's time in the day to now monitor this.
Well, the computer should generate the metrics, that's what I'm hoping happens here.
Correct.
We're paying for a software program that if we put in how many trash cans we picked up in what time period and how's the performance going, that should be able to be done with this system?
Correct, that's the output that you print out at the end of the day, and also during the day to look at what progress you're making and to know where you're at during the day.
I mean, I don't see this as being valuable at the end of the day, possibly, but I see it more valuable where we are throughout the day to see where we might need support help to continue to be able to implement this new system we put in place.
Also to be able to schedule when carts need to be made, what carts need to, when we have calls in, hey, a wheel broke off or something happened to a cart, to schedule servicing and making sure we send out proper replacement carts and stuff like that. We can track where that cart goes and comes back in and have an idea where that is. Without that, you're gonna have 12,000 pieces of equipment out there that you don't know where they are.
They gotta replace wheels, so you're gonna do it on the curbside, you're not gonna bring the car back to the building, right?
That's one possibility, depends on how bad or what happens to the cart. I'm just saying.
I mean, the only thing that could go wrong is either the top snaps off for whatever reason or the wheels come off, otherwise the thing's self-contained.
Obviously, this isn't something that, that's not an issue for the first.
Doesn't have many
several months.
parts to it.
The way I'm looking at this here, Mr. Mayor, is, it says, I'm assuming, I shouldn't say that word, assuming your addition is correct here, Paul, in this letter, the report, the RFP, that Cascade's capital cost is $67,000 and change. Annual maintenance is $8,700 and change. And if you, and it includes everything you want to do, the other company, where it's 43 capital cost, and their annual maintenance cost is almost $20,000. So the total cost over 5 years for Cascade is $111,000, and for Rare is $139, almost $140,000. So I'm seeing, $28,000 less expensive for your 5-year plan for the one that we want anyway. So.
But we're making the initial investment that's costing 20-some thousand more anyway,
But
so.
in the end, it's gonna be costing $28,000 less total, because the support costs are so
Well,
much.
I mean, if you really want to break it down, you're saving $5,000 a year.
Yes.
So it's, I'm not sure how significant that is, but
And-
I think we've kind of killed this thing, okay?
Yes,
So,
and the initial cost, it is in the bond, so, we're borrowing the money at
I-
a good rate.
I think my only point is if we proceed with RFPs or we proceed with actual bids, and really RFPs more than bids, because bids is more specific. When we're talking about a significant amount of money, I think that we should be very clear as to what we're looking for, because it doesn't make any sense to me that someone else bid on something that they can't provide if there's that much difference between, what we were looking for. And I'm not sure if it wasn't that we made it clear enough to them or whatever, but whatever the case may be, it sounds like this is something we need to implement the system, so I'm ready to move on. So unless there's any other discussion, please call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 12, results of the 2013 or newer 10-foot bed dump truck and roadside boom mower bid opening.
Oh, that's the dump truck, right?
One's a dump truck, and one's a roadside boom mower. I have in my recommendation, I have two different, separate recommendations. One for the roadside boom mower, we did have two bidders, and the low bidder was Rodeo Tractor Sales, and I would recommend that we award the bid to them for that item. For the second item, we only had one bidder, and when the bid came in, it exceeded the engineer's estimate for the vehicle. So considering we only had one bidder, and that it exceeded the bid, I would recommend that that bid be rejected, and we rebid that beginning in the new year to get maybe some additional bidders to get a more competitive bid.
And that is a valid basis to reject the bid. Just to point out, the bids probably went out at or around Thanksgiving. We're not that went out, but we're expected back at around that time.
Beginning of November.
Right.
Back.
So that may have been a factor as to why we didn't get responses because of the holidays.
Also the League of Municipalities, so they had a couple with the League of Municipalities and Thanksgiving. Some of the bidders may not have responded.
So the truck bid came in at 146,000?
Yes.
And we just had one.
What's that?
And is
And we
there,
just had
just
one
out of
bid.
curiosity, I'm not saying we're going to go that, but is there a state contract with anything comparable to that?
There was we did initially, before we put it out to bid, we did look at a state contract. They do have a vehicle. However, the state contract vehicles use an aluminum body, and we don't recommend utilizing the aluminum body because we load a lot of concrete and road debris in there, and aluminum body is a softer material, and experience has shown us that it's not going to hold up as well as a stainless steel body.
Would it be beneficial to reject the mower bid as well? Because for the same reasons that the dump truck bid was possibly under review, potentially saving a few more dollars.
I mean, we had two bidders for that, and those were the kind of the two people that we felt that were, two manufacturers, the two local, manufacturers that kind of bid on that kind of, that's more of a specialized vehicle. Not a lot of dealers carry that type of equipment as compared to a dump truck, where you would expect 4 or 5 bids on a dump truck bid, whereas a boom mower, you would expect that lower number of bidders.
Boom mower, about 92,000, that's probably close to being.
Our estimate was 95,000.
Yeah, that's pretty good, that's it. I mean, I don't think there's much savings there.
And the higher bidder was 103,000, so they were pretty close in their bidding.
So we rebid the truck and we're going with the boom mower.
That's the recommendation.
Do we need two different separate motions, Mr. Young?
Well, these are just to produce resolutions, so if you want to combine them with that, you reject all bids for the dump truck and order and direct it to be rebid and accept the lowest bid for the boom mower as recommended. One motion saying that should be good enough for the resolutions.
Second it there, Tony?
Yes, exactly.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Nacera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
And for, back on that, are all boom mowers going to be gov deals?
Yes, once some of this equipment goes in, we'll probably put together, between that and some of the other pickup trucks and different pieces of equipment, we'll put together an auction list probably towards the first quarter of the year to get rid of the surplus equipment.
As long as I don't declare it surplus, I can bid on it, right, Mr.
Item number 13.
This is more of an FYI that came from Dr. Farrell. We had some, obviously, sand loss based on sanding, but he also said that, looks to me, reading this, that, we've actually not done that badly, all things considering.
And this was for the summer report. I think once we see I think he's in the process, I think he's collected the data for the fall report. I think, some of the last 2 nor'easters that we've had over the last month and a half, I think we probably see some additional losses from those storms, but the summer was pretty good for the beaches as far as maintaining the shoreline.
Well, we haven't gotten any final date, but, originally we were hoping for the spring, and we're still optimistic with that. But, I guess it's a matter of mobilizing the dredge and everything and trying to work things out. My understanding is they're going to try and work around like some of the summer tourist season, because it's also south end of Ocean City, Sea Isle, and they also have a project in Stone Harbor or something. I think they're trying to coordinate and figure out what's the best area to be doing at certain times of the summer. And they obviously can't do anything with us in the dead of summer because, in June and May, because we have traditionally have had piping plover's nest, so they can't do any beach replenishment during then. So if we don't get it started, probably sometime in March or at least the end of March, it probably will wait till September, right?
They may be able to start the southern end and work, through Whale Beach, but yes, the main part of, the northern part of Strathmere probably won't be done until late summer, early fall.
Yeah, there's no worries that it's not going to be done. It's just a matter of the timing, and they'll be working around, like I said, migrating birds and all those kind of things that play a factor in as to the timing of when this project's going to take place, so. Okay, would someone now like to make a motion? Oh, wait, and we have another discussion item, I apologize.
Item number 14, the draft of the 2014 Residents Information Packet.
This one out already, Paul?
Not this.
Oh, that was the letter.
That was just a letter from Carts. This is the actual.
This obviously will have to be updated once the new program comes in.
Correct, yeah, this is just to get the year started, to establish the holidays and bulk trash schedules and brush collection and leaf schedules.
Is there going to be a note in that when it goes out that this will be modified once the new program comes in?
We can add a note to
Because
that.
it'd be kind of confusing. One week you get a letter saying, pick out your card, and the next week you say, get your trash cans out the curb, so.
Do you think we should wait on this one, bit?
No, we have to adopt this because we have to establish the dates for the various, bulk trash, leaf collection and brush collection, so, and the holiday schedule, so it's kind of, you have to do this for a temporary time period, but I think we could add a note at the top just to remind residents that this will be effective through the beginning of the new collection process.
Okay,
Move to approve?
is there a second? Second. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Someone like to make a motion to pay the bills?
Move that all claims submitted for payment this meeting be incorporated full, be approved and incorporated full in the minutes of this meeting.
Second. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
There are a number of reported from the municipal departments: construction code, clerk's office, animal control, tax assessor, tax collector, MUA report, division of EMS, and the treasurer's report. They will be available tomorrow upon request in the clerk's office, but at this time I'd like to make a motion to accept these department reports.
Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, at this time, I'll open it up to the public. Would anyone like to address the township, the committee this evening? Please come up and state your name and your address. Yes.
Thanks, Strathmere. As far as the upcoming beach fill goes, the beach is in pretty good shape, and the inlet seems to be in pretty good shape. But the area of concern right now is the back bay. After you come in the inlet to the left there, it's just filling in with bars. The bay is almost like closed off, and it's pushed the channel all the way back up against the causeway, which is constantly in danger now. And I'm just kind of wondering if this project is, the normal bar area is out in the ocean.
In the ocean.
I'm wondering if any,
Yeah, the borrow site the borrow sites for our previous municipal beach fills have all been to dredge the inlet itself. The borrow areas for the, Army Corps fill are actually out deep in the ocean and will not affect the inlet whatsoever.
yeah, I mean, I'm glad we're getting the beach fill, but it's kind of like it's not going to be addressing what the issue is at this point.
Well, in Dr. Farrell's report, he still talks about that ongoing problem we have with that channel that seems to recreate itself every so often. And it's something that he's been monitoring, and, that, I'm not saying it's there, but, based on some of the transition of the sand, that could potentially, come up again. So that's why we're trying to take these, really proactive approach at this point.
Yeah, I just, maybe discussions with him or whatever, what his thoughts are on what's going to happen in the back bay there. The only other question I had was, with all these bond issue deals coming up now, there's the trash trucks and the dump trucks, and there's been a lot of items purchased lately on the bond, and I was just kind of trying to get a feel for how that compares, say, over a 10-year average. Like, it seems like we're buying a lot of stuff.
Well, what the plan was, the bond total was about $4 million, I believe. Was there about?
It's not to spend it all.
Just under 4 million.
What the plan is we have a $4 million beach replenishment project. This is our last year on that. We're going to end one bond and start paying off the other bond. One was going to roll right into the other. There's going to be no.
Yeah, and the payments, although will vary a little bit, are not that significant, at least at this point, to what we're talking about from what we were paying to pay down the note from the bond from the beach replenishment. And the good news is that this year, the beach replenishment is 100% fully funded, so it kind of gives us that opportunity to catch up on some of the things that we haven't purchased over the years in an effort to try and do some of the other projects. So, it's kind of like a little bit of a balance. Like, we have held off buying really a significant amount of equipment in an effort to keep our expenses down. And the fact that we're paying off this bond, it's not that we're, feel like we, now have this reprieve to go out and buy things, but we really have let some things go to the point where we need to replace them because they potentially could be a safety hazard. So, we're looking to catch up a little bit that way. And like I said, the good news is because the upcoming beach replenishment is fully funded, we can catch up a little bit on some of the other areas where we've kind of cut ourselves short in an effort to really address some of the emergent situations we had over in Strathmere over the past, really, 7 years, so.
And actually, the plan was to do it was from the boat ramp on down with no impact on the voters. It's already.
So you're saying all this new equipment, we're not really going to see a tax increase out of it then?
Yeah.
Because
Well-
one bond's ended and it.
Well, that's our goal, but I mean,
That was the idea. There was one
That
bond
was the
comes
idea.
in, and then the other one comes in.
That was the idea, but after January, I can't tell you what the next year's budget's going to be because I'm not.
well, we can't predict what we're getting on state allocation of funding too. Yeah, and that's gonna play a factor. In other words, what we normally get as a state allocation in funding, hopefully if that remains at least somewhat, consistent to what we've had over the past couple of years, then I'd feel pretty confident saying, yeah, well, that's probably gonna be the case. But if we have a significant change in that, then I would say all bets are off at this point until we see what we come down with, so.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Would anyone else like to address the Township Committee? Okay, hearing no further public comment, we'll close the public portion. Thank you all for attending this evening. We appreciate the company as we have these meetings. So, Mr. Newman, would you like to read the next motion, please?
I hereby move the resolution be incorporated in the minutes, authorizing the township committee to enter into executive session for the following matters pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Number one, contract negotiation, health benefits. Number two, contract negotiation, employee benefits consultant. Number three, contract negotiations, tax map provisions. Number four, safety and security issues. Number five, personnel. I also include my motion yesterday time to be circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session will be disclosed to the public as follows. A, is anticipated that matters discussed in closed session may be disclosed to the public upon the determination of the Township Committee that the public interest will no longer be served by such confidentiality. B, with respect to employment personnel matters, such discussions will be made public if and when formal action is taken or when the individual's consent that it will be made public. And C, with respect to contract negotiations, such matters will be public. Negotiations have ceased, and there's no longer a reason for confidentiality.
Okay. Second, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Nacera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, everyone, for attending.